Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I was thinking earlier, which is something I like to do from time to time, and I came to an interesting conclusion based upon my observations of the online fitness world. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. You know, it really wasn't that long ago in YouTube fitness that I was controversial for other things that were considered to be extreme statements by different people. They didn't like certain things I said and became very controversial. But what's interesting to me now is that there are three things that I say that have become controversial that actually shouldn't be, that it's actually batshit fucking insane that it's actually controversial. And those things are that, you should eat breakfast. Eating breakfast, the most important meal of the day, can be helpful for fitness. The fact that I've said that carbohydrates are part of fitness and health, that you can eat a high carbohydrate diet rich in whole grains and things, and be healthy and fit, and that is very much part of a fit lifestyle. And I've said that eating lean meats and lean proteins can also be part of a fitness, healthy, and athletic lifestyle. That I promote all three of those things. I want you guys to think about that historically, nutritionally, when you look at everything from demographics around the world to athletes, the top athletes in the world, that it's actually controversial, that any of those statements are considered controversial and that you would actually be attacked for them. That's how fucking insane the YouTube fitness world has become. That it's controversial to eat breakfast, promote eating breakfast, controversial to promote eating complex starchy carbohydrates, and eating lean proteins and lean meats. That these things are very much part of fitness, health, and athleticism. That's actually become controversial for a number of different reasons. Why breakfast? Everyone always told you that growing up, breakfast is the most important part of the day. Every coach out there, when dealing with the top athletes around the world, including people who win the Super Bowl, people who win Olympic gold medals, that, your pre-training meal is very important. Pre-workout nutrition is actually a really big deal. It's important. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. But with the rise of intermittent fasting, tons of people act like it's not part of a fit lifestyle. Different people have really promoted fasting as being the key to fitness. But, you don't necessarily see the longest lived cultures in the world practicing it. Some do, some don't. Controversial. I understand the fasting is actually controversial, but eating breakfast shouldn't be. And you certainly don't see many top athletes around the world skipping their breakfast and going in and training fasted. It's virtually unheard of. So it kind of makes you wonder, although people are claiming health benefits, and I get that, but it's actually become a point of controversy. In fact, it's like, oh, you eat breakfast, that's why you're fat. People have this sort of mentality, and it's like, people used to actually think that not eating breakfast caused metabolic damage and slowed your metabolism down. Now people are going the opposite direction. But the thing is, intermittent fasting is just another tool, just like anything else. That's all it is. It's a tool in the toolbox that works well for some people and it's horrific for others. It's as simple as that. But you're not going to be a top-level athlete doing it. That's going to be very, very rare. It might be good for some people's health and fitness, though, particularly as a way to follow diet adherence. I get that. Don't disagree with that. But the fact that eating breakfast, people actually make a big deal about it now. And that's the least of these two. The other two are much, much bigger. I wanted to get that little easy one out of the way. But eating carbohydrates, people, and particularly the bodybuilding world, have become so carbophobic that people are actually believing that carbohydrates are the cause of obesity. That's not supported by any of the epidemiology, and it's definitely not supported by lab studies. Some of the thinnest cultures on earth follow primarily high carbohydrate diets, meaning most of their calories come from carbohydrates. The longest lived cultures in the world follow diets that are usually at least 70% carbohydrate by calorie. People whose diets consist of the highest fat in the world usually have much younger mortality rates. All right, that's just the reality. If this was reversed, you think you would see that in the epidemiology. People who eat the highest fat were the Eskimos, the Inuits, following their traditional diet. They had a below average life expectancy. They didn't live that long. Now people could argue, well, their climate and everything caused it. Well, yeah, that's probably a factor. But that's the best example you have, and they died young. They weren't particularly healthy as a culture, even before the Western diet was introduced. Now, the Western diet is actually the highest fat diet. The very diet that people disparage is the highest fat diet. And I'm not saying ketogenic diets don't work, and that's the interesting thing. You know, people who understand this stuff, people who actually understand nutrition, don't really make that big of a deal about ketogenic diets. They're like, okay, they're probably not ideal. They're not ideal, but they work for some people. You know, a lot of people find diet adherence on ketogenic diets to be really good. There's a segment of the population, probably as many as 1 in 3 people in Western countries, due to previous damage to their body that's caused this insulin resistance and other things, tend to do very, very well on ketogenic diets for fat loss. All right, even though when we do controlled studies, they don't work compared to the others very well, meaning higher carb diets actually tend to have a very small metabolic advantage. There's never been a single study in which the researchers got to control the calories and protein was equalized where low carbers lost more fat than high carbers. All right, people on a low carb diet do not ever lose more fat than people on a high carb diet when they eat the same amount of protein, and scientists get to control your caloric intake so that you can't cheat or lie about it. In those situations, they never have the best fat loss ever, not a single study ever. It's only when people self-report do they ever find any advantage, and self-reported intake doesn't work. But you know, even in spite of that, it is acknowledged. Most registered dietitians will acknowledge that people who are extremely morbidly obese with insulin sensitivity actually find adhering to a ketogenic diet. A good chunk of them find it the easiest diet to lose body fat on. Not because of a metabolic advantage, not because of circulating insulin causing fat gain in the absence of calories, because they eat less on it. They can control their appetite better on it. And you know what? If you can control your appetite better on something, of course it's going to help you lose body fat. Of course it is. And if you lose body fat, your health is going to improve if you're morbidly obese, no matter how you do it. We saw that with the Twinkie diet. All right, that researcher lost 30 pounds on the Twinkie diet and all of his blood work improved by eating Twinkies all day, every day, and having a protein shake. Protein shake and then nothing but Twinkies. Lost 30 pounds, blood work improved, even though his diet was horrific. The point is, yeah, if you lose body fat, you're going to be healthier if you're morbidly obese, almost irrespective of what method you use. But there's nothing magical about these diets, and carbohydrates are clearly not the enemy. The cultures that live longest, that have the lowest diseases and the highest lifespan, the longest lifespan, all follow extremely high carbohydrate diets. Every single one of them. The countries that have the lowest rates of obesity usually eat white rice as a staple in their diet. The majority of the time. All right, white rice is perfectly healthy. Most of the top athletes in the world, the overwhelming majority of elite level athletes follow very high carbohydrate diets. So, you know, when people try to blame carbohydrates for things and actually make it controversial that people are talking about eating a high carb diet, that's a bad thing, look at the fucking research. Look at the real world. Every single culture on earth that has the highest lifespans, the highest average lifespan, follow extremely high carb diets. Almost every elite level athlete, the fittest, most athletic, strongest, fastest people on the face of the earth follow ultra high carb diets. There's a pattern here. So for people to act like high carbohydrate diets aren't awesome for health, fitness, athleticism, are clearly ignorant as fuck. They're not looking at any of the evidence. But by that same token, ketogenic diets have their place. There are people who find them very, very useful for fat loss. I don't think anyone's denying that. But the other side has this dogmatic view, and it's really bizarre. It's really crazy. Then we get the whole lean protein thing. Man, you get attacked for lean meat by the keto people and the vegan people. You know, because vegans run around screaming, you know, oh my God, animal protein is the cause of osteoporosis and cancer because of whatever study done on rats or mice from the 50s. It doesn't appear in the epidemiology. There doesn't appear to be any fucking correlation, let alone causation, between animal protein and cancer. Fucking none in the data, the research, when we look at it. It's not even a factor. And if it was a factor, vegans would get cancer at a lower rate than the general population. They don't. They don't. The people who eat zero animal protein don't even have lower cancer rates than everyone else. Should be the dead giveaway there, guys. It's not even supported by any nutritionists or researchers. The top researchers in the world all laugh at it. It's bullshit. Same thing, osteoporosis. Actually, they found that animal proteins in some cases are, in certain age groups and certain studies, seem to be protective against osteoporosis. You know, but they go crazy with this shit. They go absolutely fucking crazy with this shit. Many even claim that high protein is a cause of obesity, that protein turns into fat. Now, the same people will say carbs don't turn into fat, but protein does. Excess protein turns into carbohydrates. If excess carbohydrates aren't turning into fat, how in the world does protein turn into fat? Why is it every single study that we look at when calories are accounted for, higher protein diets almost always equal less fat? Almost always. 90% of the time. 90% of the time, a higher protein diet equals faster fat loss, and if people are overeating, it equals slower fat gain. Again, absolute insanity. Not based on any research, yet they want to make eating meat controversial, which for ethical reasons, I can understand that. They can create an ethical argument. And if that's how they feel, that's their personal ethics, no problem with that. But they make the eating of meat controversial from a fitness perspective. Then you got the keto people. Why are you eating lean meat? Don't you know the 7 Nations study by Ansel Keys was debunked? You should be eating bacon. You should be eating the fattest cuts of fucking ribeye you could find. Fat, fat, fat. You need a high-fat diet. No, guys, there's no need to eat a high-fat diet. Again, higher carb, lower fat diets tend to be the people who live the longest. Those are the cultures with the highest life expectancy. Actually, those sort of diets usually produce the best athletes, too. The majority of the time. There are exceptions, but the majority of the times. So, you know, when you look at all of this stuff and you look at the weight of the evidence of all of these things, and the things that we have always known, I mean, researchers and doctors and registered dietitians and sports dietitians have known for years that, you know, and I always said, eating breakfast is the most important part of your day. Give fuel to your brain so you can function. You can be more active. In fact, we know you can be more active. People even lose more body fat who do fed cardio instead of fasted cardio in the morning. It's been studied now recently, it's a couple years ago. They lost more fat if they ate first. There's nothing wrong with eating breakfast. Eating breakfast is part of a healthy, fit lifestyle. Same thing, carbohydrates. Guys, eating a high-carb diet is actually what the majority of the most elite athletes and healthiest people on the face of the earth do, the vast majority. There's nothing controversial about promoting carbohydrates. All right, ketogenic diets are where the controversy is. Same thing, lean protein. Guys, lean proteins are fine. In fact, lean proteins have been linked to improved health markers in middle-aged and elderly people in a lot of ways. They've actually found half a dozen different diseases that are slightly mitigated by eating higher protein as we age. Lean proteins, lean animal proteins, they're perfectly healthy. There's no link to cancer or anything else found with them. This stuff shouldn't be controversial, but because of the crazy shit on the internet, it all fucking is. It's just insane. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.